What's up, Knicks fans? Welcome to episode 55 of the Worldwide Knicks podcast. At full strength this week, Omar here alongside Rafa and Alex. Guys, how we doing on this Sunday night?
Good, thanks, Omar. Good to be back. Yeah, it's been quite some week, so looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Let's just say I'm ready for tonight. Let's just
Rafa is fired up, man. He's fired up. He's good to go. So pretty interesting week for the team. You know, I think last week, Rafa, you and I were pretty pessimistic on the potential outcomes, and I got it completely wrong. I said, "Oh, maybe we'll win one against Brooklyn and lose the other two." Did the complete opposite. Had wins against Cleveland, a win against Boston, and a loss yesterday against a red-hot Nets team from downtown who shot 55% from three. That was certainly something to behold, and Kyrie was just doing Kyrie things in the fourth quarter. Not much you can do there, So
ridiculous, ridiculous.
Yeah. So a 2-1 week, but really big wins against Cleveland and Boston. And that is kind of where I want to start. A lot of fans after those two wins, guys, were basically saying, oh, man, these were signature wins. These are signature wins for this Knicks team. There's something they could really build on, and they're season-defining wins, right? So my question to you guys is, we're talking about a professional basketball team. This isn't college. Is there really such a thing as a signature win?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because, like if you look at it from the perspective of some of these teams, where a lot of them kind of coast the regular season, really only start positioning themselves towards, once the playoffs are in sight. So, there's always going to be what about, I mean, I saw a lot of fans saying when we were getting all these kind of scrappy wins over the kind of festive period that it's like, oh yeah, but they're just beating the teams they should be beating, or they're kind of getting lucky, and they're not really beating anybody, and if they're beating a good team, it's because so and so is out injured, and then bang, two wins against the Cavs and the Celtics and full strength pretty much, apart from
Marcus Smart.
Smart, really, yeah. So, and the Knicks aren't at full strength. So, I mean, they were both fantastic wins, and they answered a few questions that a few people had. But I think it's hard to call anything a kind of signature win in the regular season. There's so many variables as to what's going on, depending on what the opponent's up to, how seriously they're taking the game at that point. So, I mean, the Celtics were, I think, they were already on a 2-game losing streak, I think, before the game. So, they could have been fired up, especially at home, to kind of get one back, kind of stop the slide. So,
professional sports, any sport, the thing that drives the players and gets good play is the momentum players are in. If you're in a losing streak, everything feels bad, everything goes wrong. When one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. So, and when you're winning and your shots are falling, you start getting a little bit more fancy in the plays and everything. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is signature wins. I mean, it's tough we won this game last night. This is a signature win. I think it's tough to say it like that. Or I think more impactful than a big win is a big loss. Just you have the example.
Rafa's over here talking about signature losses, man.
I mean, no, but look at the Knicks this season.
Yeah.
What was our last loss before the 8-game winning streak? The best basketball we played all the year.
Dallas loss.
The Dallas loss, which was terrible. Yeah. After the Dallas loss, we won 8 straight because the players just came together and built on it, and everything was clicking. And then we lost, and we lost 5 in a row. Then we won 4 or 5 in a row again. So it's a lot of momentum. And you have the example of last year with the Celtics, that they say that the game against the Knicks turned their season around.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a win, might be a loss. It's the momentum, is the way it changes the locker room, the vibes of that player. I mean, even getting back to last year again, like one of the best games I saw, we all saw from RJ Barrett was in a loss against the Heat. Also against the Heat, he almost went for 50, and he just kept rolling. So it's momentum games to some player, to some teams. I mean, to see last year, Julius Randle was playing good, thumbs down, it all went to shit for him. So it's momentum. Um, Not a big win, but a big loss. Everything can change in sport in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I don't think it's that clear the day after, but a few months or a few weeks, you can now we can talk about the loss against Dallas to be a big momentum for this season. So I don't call it just for the wins, but moments.
Yeah, I don't really. Oh, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say they do seem to be a team that's kind of works well when the kind of backs against the wall. Remember that just before that big long road trip that they had, they were a really tough schedule, and they came out of that, some fantastic wins and some fantastic performances. They just and as you said, after that Dallas loss, everybody keeps thinking they're going to finally get their chance to get rid of Tibbs, and then they just pull something like that win streak out
Every
the bag.
time he's this close, man. Every time he's this close, the team starts winning.
That with 9 lives, man. That's what he is.
He knows his job is on the line and says, I'm actually going to coach.
Tibbs is like when you're playing like Tetris, right? And you're getting like way to the last couple of lines, you're about to die. And then somehow, some way, you just string a couple down, and the threat is alleviated. That's basically where he's at right now in his tenure as Knicks coach. But I don't really buy the whole signature wins thing for this team, to be honest. Like, to me, a signature win or like a foundational win or whatever, say you're a young team like the Rockets, and you go into Denver, and maybe your young star players like Jalen Green go in and have a great game, and you beat Denver in Denver, right? Like, that's a signature win for them because they're building towards getting to the next level. Knicks right now, their team, they have aspirations of making the playoffs. So to them, playing Boston, that could be a first round preview, depending on how the play in and everything lines up. Same thing with Brooklyn, if they continue to win. And so the Knicks are going in as like, well, this isn't a signature win. This is us just saying, hey, we can hang with these guys. We could beat these guys, right? So I don't really look at it in that way, because this team has aspirations to be a playoff team and to win some games in the playoffs. That's kind of what they're building towards. And so if you say, oh, yeah, we happen to beat Boston in a regular season game, like, all right, that's cool. There's nothing signature about that. You guys are saying about, their style is best when the backs are against the wall, and maybe it's just a signature style thing, right? It's a win that reinforces the style, I guess is my point. And Rafi made a really good point about the loss. The losses, that like a signature loss is a pivotal moment loss. The one against Dallas where they just got blown open in the third quarter. I mean, even the other loss against Dallas, which with the late blown lead in the fourth quarter that went to OT, that could be another one that could be considered. It's a kind of a signature loss, so to speak. So I don't know about you guys, but I buy into signature loss more than I buy into signature win.
I mean, it depends on what you want or what you mean as a major win. Like, what do you want with a win like this? They're going to go on a tear and win the next 25 games out of 30? Is that it?
That'd be nice.
Because I mean, but most of all, that's not the moments. I mean, we mentioned when that game happened, you alluded to the second Dallas terrible loss. We all mentioned here that Grimes, the next time he has a chance to grab that rebound, he's going to throw elbows everywhere because he's learning from that experience.
Activate Charles Oakley mode.
I mean, but it's going to be there. Like, we lost the game because I didn't grab this rebound. Next time I have a chance, I'm gonna die trying. I'm gonna die getting it. I might die, but I'm gonna get it. As a young team, those losses or wins, or the way you win, the way you lose,
Hmm.
they teach you. It's a teaching thing
Especially for such a
for
young
team.
team, right? Like the missed
Exactly.
free throws by Grimes early. I know we're kind of focusing on QG, but he's one of the younger players, obviously. They learn from those moments. They build up the kind of repository of going through it, right? And that's kind of the ups and downs of having a young team. Alex, you talked about it a million times before. It's why you kind of want veteran presence if you have playoff aspirations, because you have such a young team. They're going to need a little bit more and a little bit of they're going to go through their warts. There's a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And that's what we see with this team. That's why I'm, again, just bring it back. Don't really see that as, signature win or not a signature win type thing.
Just only Knicks fans could talk about signature losses. Could come
We're
up with
so
that.
negative, man. We're the only more negative fan base than us is probably Philly, to be honest. So
Yeah.
Us, Philly, and Boston, we're kind of that trifecta of negativity. That's what we do. So
I bet very quickly we
like,
could come up with the top 5 losses off the top of your head before you could come up with the top 5 wins from the past decade or something.
I mean, Charles
remember
Smith,
that.
man.
Remember that
decade, you
you
can select 5 from this season. Like, come on.
Right,
Yeah, that's
right, right.
good.
Hey, what's a signature moment from the Amari Stoudemire era as a Knick? And you just say fire extinguisher, and everybody knows what it is. And that's the first thing that comes to people's minds. So anyway, let's move on that note. Let's
Way
talk
to end
about
it, man.
what?
Way to end the topic, man.
Hey, man, I love Stat, but that was a bad move. But so let's talk about Rafa's favorite player, RJ Barrett, a little bit. So, guys, when we're recording this, it's the 29th of January, week and a half away from the trade deadline. Next week, we'll have a nice trade deadline episode, so that should be fun. But, a lot of talk about OG Anunoby. There was talk about Kyle Kuzma before the Wizards shut that down, said they're not trading him. And RJ Barrett's been getting thrown into the mix of a lot of these deals. And it really got us wondering, what is RJ's value around the league? Is it the centerpiece of a trade? Is it part of a big package, or is he untradeable? Or not untradeable? No one's untradeable, but is he harder to trade type of thing, right? So, guys, what do you think about his value? What is RJ's value in today's NBA?
Oh man. I was just going to say, actually, I mean, we talk a lot over the last year or so about, RJ's potential, and the Knicks can see his potential, and he's only 20 or he's only 21, and we're almost kind of going to say this really wrong, and Rafa's going to get angry with me, but we're almost making excuses for him a lot of the time, and his efficiency is bad. It will come. It just comes with experience. He's only young, but he's about to go into his second contract now, and we have to start thinking about him as an actual asset. What is he worth? What at the end of the day, as you said, nobody's untradeable. Yeah, certainly on this roster. And I mean, we have to start thinking about it as much as we're attached to him as a prospect. I mean, it's if the right deal comes along, then he's gone. And we've already seen that with the Donovan Mitchell stuff, that the team are willing to give him up at the right price. So, as for kind of, it's so hard when you're so invested in a player, and you see some of the the deals that are getting bandied about the league, and Rafa mentioned before we came on about one of the Plumleys, they want a first round pick from him. If he's worth a first round pick, then no matter the quality of the first round pick, then what's RJ worth? And we've also talked at length about how the Gobert deal was just destroyed so many, the kind of perspective of what a first round pick's worth, and so on. So it's so hard to put an actual price on it. If somebody puts up a deal and says, would you trade RJ for this, then it's a little bit more difficult. But I mean, would you want players back? Would you want picks back? It's I don't know. I really don't want to think about it because I obviously see a big future for him in the team. But yeah, it's a tough one. I'm going to leave that to Rafa. I'll sit on the fence with that one.
Just kicking it to me.
Yeah.
So to me, you would only trade. I'm going to agree with Nick's Twitter legend stat and trade RJ Barrett for God. That's to me. That's it. To me, this is it. It's more than just the way he plays. I know he's not the probably the big star we were hoping him to be. A John Morant level, whatever you want to compare him to.
It's
But
the
he is
Jeter
the
comp
shift.
that everybody likes to make, right? The Derek Jeter element. It's like leadership, steadiness, talent, obviously, but maybe not like he's not A-Rod, to use that same baseball analogy, right?
Exactly.
But in terms of a talent perspective, but he has the steadiness and leadership qualities that a Jeter would have, and that's what you want in this market, right?
He says himself he's not the most skillful player. He knows that.
He knows what he is.
He knows his limitations, and he just works twice as hard to overcome those. So.
He knows it, and he knows his strength, and he knows his weaknesses. But the problem is the fans look him as a third round pick in the draft. We should have gotten Zion, and the pressure is totally different. He's not the prize we wanted, so he's the compensation that hurts. Alex said it's making excuses, but whatever. But he's a very young player, and he's the first guy the first round we drafted in the first round that we actually are taking advantage of. Like we're using him, and we are developing him. Again, probably not the development we hoped for in the fourth year. He was dropping 50 in every game. I wish, but I mean it's growing pains of having a young team and trying to develop it. And I don't know if it was Alex or Omar one who's talking about the Timberwolves game where Anthony Edwards missed the free throws or missed the crucial plays a play at the end and cost the Timberwolves the win. Like mistakes will happen. Look at Jaylen Brown. Missed 2 free throws, cost Celtics the game. I mean, mistakes will happen. And if you're young, mistakes will happen more often. I mean, there's last probably 3 or 4 games, we can all just Sims made this mistake, Quickley made this mistake, Grimes made this, RJ did this. I mean, young players, we're all going to
Quickley doesn't make mistakes.
They're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah, obviously, we talk about it. Quickley's a perfect basketball player.
But I mean, it's part of the growing pains, and RJ has the pressure because he was a third overall pick, and Quickley was a 21st or second, I don't know.
25th, I think.
25th, yeah.
25th, okay, whatever. Sorry. Grimes was around the same area, and Sims was a second rounder, so okay, so the pressure is different. And to trade a guy like RJ Barrett, you look around the league at 20-year-old players, 22-year-old players, young in the second contract, averaging 20 points per game, the second year averaging 20 points per game. The teams would ask for all of our mothers, all of our grandmother, everything else to get them, because they're the centerpieces to build around them. So if the Knicks are trading him away, imagine you want to rebuild and you wanted to trade RJ Barrett away, and you would get you would keep RJ, but following the train of thought, you would ask for a bunch of first round picks and players in return. You would want those picks if you're a rebuilding team. Like if Rudy Gobert went for 3 first round picks because they're trying to get a title, I mean, you could get those 3 round picks back for RJ Barrett. If you're not trying to acquire a star, like if you're trading him for a star.
The question I have for you, Rafa, is let's say there is no third option. It's either trade him away and get a bunch of draft picks, or use him as a centerpiece to acquire a star. Which one would you be more comfortable with giving up on RJ for?
Obviously, if you're getting a star because you have that's believe you have the pieces around that star already in the team to be able to win. Now, like what you see around, so I would be more comfortable with that, like getting a star back. Okay, because if you're getting the star, you're pairing him with other players to win a title. As much as it would pain me, yeah, I would rather have that. Because the first option, you're getting picks for RJ Barrett because you didn't believe in him at all. It's just like, okay, screw this. RJ is not the guy. Just get the picks and try and move on with another new character. If you're trading for the star, okay, and you're trading him as a centerpiece for the star, so okay, I know you are great. I know you're good, but we want to win quicker. So an example of comparing the Sacramento Kings, they know Halliburton is a great player, but they're like, okay, we have Fox, and we haven't made the playoffs since
20 plus
I don't know
years.
when. Yeah, so Sabonis is a guy we can acquire here to add with Fox, and maybe we can get to the playoffs and look like a competent front office or something. So they upgraded a piece of that, and they need to let go of another piece. So I think it's two different trades in the way you see it. But if you're getting a star and obviously getting RJ, if you're not trading RJ Barrett, you need to get more assets off. Because no matter how our Knicks fans see RJ Barrett, he's a bum, he's this, he's that. Other teams around the league don't see him as a bum like that. That's why you're seeing they're doubling Julius Randle, they're doubling Jalen Brunson, and they're doubling RJ Barrett as well. So they know there's a threat there. Even if he's streaky, first half terrible, second half amazing. Like it's the different take on the half man, half amazing Vince Carter, like half bum, half star. I mean, it's like you're always saying, it's growing pains with the young guys. I mean, if you think he's not the guy, you should trade him to whatever. If you think he's that great, but you want to, and you think, but adding a star to Brunson and Randall will get you a title. Man, it's a title. So it's much of I would love RJ Barrett, and I love RJ Barrett. If we would acquire, I don't know, a guy that will get us the title, yeah, well, it's a Knicks title. Well,
I
what are you
mean,
going to do?
out of your own mouth,
yeah.
that person's name better be God, obviously. So, you know,
only God will get a title to the Knicks.
Yeah, there you go. All right,
Just,
the only way.
like to
Divine
say,
intervention is the only way.
two of the letters of God are OG, just to kind of just to link us on there.
Stop. So here's the thing, guys. You guys mentioned the Gobert trade tanked the market, right? It's bad. You know, everybody wants a million picks. Now, you got the Bulls asking for 2 first-round picks for Alex Caruso. Like it's not good. And so I look at a trade that just happened. Rui Hachimura went to the Lakers. The Wizards got back a serviceable player in Kendrick Nunn and a few second-round picks. So I think it was like 2 second-round picks. So that's Rui Hachimura's value. Rotation player plus 2 seconds. I think we all are in agreement that RJ Barrett's a better player than Rui Hachimura. So you would imagine RJ would command a first, maybe 2, if they're like heavily protected, and some sort of rotation player to match salary. And I think that you really have to ask yourself, what do you view him as? Do you view him as a player that needs a better situation to blossom into the superstar that he should be? Or do you view him as just a pawn on the chessboard to acquire that bigger player, to acquire, like, say, a Kawhi Leonard type player, right? That you want because you want to win now, and you have guys in Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson who are in win now mode, right? They're not trying to tank or anything like that, right? And I think that of course, no player is untradeable, and there's some value in keeping RJ though. You mentioned it, Rafa. It's kind of like the stability of him as a player, as a cornerstone piece, and it's something we don't really experience, haven't really experienced it since Patrick. A guy who gets drafted here, stays here for a decade plus. It's not the case. Carmelo obviously was brought in via trade. Amari was a free agent, and Stephon Marbury brought in via trade. It's not often that we have homegrown stuff. So I think for fans like us who've been around this team for a long time now, we kind of crave that because it's always, oh, who am I going to get? Who are we going to acquire in free agency? And that's hard to trade away from a sentimentality perspective. But obviously, if you have a deal on the table, you're going to do the deal, and obviously he was on the table during the Donovan Mitchell discussions. And I honestly think, though, the Knicks are only trading away RJ if it gets them what they perceive to be a superstar. Now, I don't know who that superstar is or who they have their eyes on. And the funny thing about, as a kind of a quick diversion about the trade deadline this year, is that the records are so congested. There's so much parity that a lot of teams haven't really thrown in for the tank yet. Like Houston, of course, Detroit, of course. But a lot of these teams, where there's only a few games difference between being a 12 seed and being the 4 seed in the West. And in the East, you're seeing a lot of congestion in the lower half of the conference as well. So it's almost like people are like, well, maybe I'm good enough to make a playoff run. Maybe I don't really need to trade away all these players and just kick the ball off for next year. So it makes you wonder, who's going to kind of say, all right, forget this. Toronto is a good example. They're 5-6 games below 500, but they're still in the mix, and you wonder if they're going to just kind of blow it up with all the interesting assets they have. And, it's kind of, you're playing this game of chicken with the trade deadline this year.
That's a thing I was keep thinking as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Rafa, I was just going to I keep thinking that Utah are going to kind of dive bomb towards the bottom, but
yeah, right around 500.
Maybe the All-Star hosting thing is got something to do with them trying to keep themselves respectable.
Hey man, you got Knicks fans wanting to trade for Lauri Markkanen right now. Julius for Lauri, straight up.
You see, that's the crazy thing. You have the young player in RJ Barrett that you want to trade away,
right?
But then you have the older player in Julius Randle that you want to trade for a younger version of Julius Randle in Lauri Markkanen. So
yeah.
Do we want to go young or do you want to go older? What
we don't know what we want.
What's the plan? Dude, we just want a big trade. We just want a splash trade. It's all we want. So we were mad about the front office for signing Julius Randle because of the fake season. Apparently not a fake season. But you want to trade for Lauri Markkanen, who is having the first great season since he arrived in the league. So but if it's from the other teams, it's good to go. But if it's our team, no, trade away, trade value up, and then go get the same exact player but from another team. But what I was going to say before is your point, and we mentioned this, that the play-ins stayed because it kind of helps against the tanking and against teams blowing it up, basically, because if it's 4 years ago, the Raptors, they're in 12th place, 23 and 28. Apparently, OG is not happy. Fred VanVleet is not having a great season. 4 years ago, they reached the trade deadline. They're still 6 or 7 games behind 500. Well, they're only 2 games away from the 8th seed Hawks, but it continues. They're starting to lose, and they say, screw it. We're not going to get 8th place. Just trade away what we don't want to use for the future and just get a higher pick. Right now, they're in 12th. So the play-ins is right there. So it helps teams not want to trade away players as well, or at least if the Raptors want to trade OG, they would want something in return that could help them reach the playoffs or play-in. So it's a different perspective as well.
Yeah, they're a team that no one wants in the play-in. I would say that's a horrible play-in matchup if you get the Raptors, I think.
Yeah, imagine if you're like the Hawks or something and you have to play them to get into the playoffs. That's desirable, having to deal with all that length that they have and switchability with the lineups and things of that nature. Want to just continue on this RJ stuff. So there's something that Rafa pointed out a few games ago, which is that late game situations, it seems like Tibbs is opting to pull out RJ more often than not, and got some numbers here. In the last 5 games in what's called crunch time minutes, so 5 points or less under with 3 minutes or less to play in the game. Quentin Grimes, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, all in that 14 minutes vicinity. RJ down to 9.3 and Immanuel Quickley at 6.0. So you add those two together, that kind of forms one position between RJ and Quickley. So is this something to worry about? Is Tibbs losing a little bit of trust in RJ as a closer?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I think stats can be a little bit misleading at times. I mean, you see how many minutes RJ plays. You see him, with the clutch three the other night against Boston again. So yeah, I don't think it's a case of not trusting. I think it's noticeable when he gets dropped to the bench in the kind of closing minutes, but that can be for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Certainly, he might just have spotted something that was a matchup issue or something like that. So I don't, I think usually it's the other way, and people complaining about RJ playing too many minutes, but. I think it's just he was. I don't think it's a big issue.
Complainers going to complain.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. RJ's defense has not been amazing. That's putting it lightly. I've said this many times on Twitter. I think I said it on the pod as well, on the group chat, that RJ's body change, whoever came up with, hey, RJ, you should do this with your body. Dude, retire. That was terrible. I think that the idea of transforming RJ into a 3 is, I mean, it's, I don't know. He's not as tall, and so he got heavier, so he's slower, so he can't guard the two
Mitch
players.
all over again, man.
Exactly. So it's like so you've seen him guarding taller players, like they can't back up RJ. No, but they can shoot over him. Yay. So it's kind of complicated. Like a guy like, for example, Kyle Kuzma, who's taller, but he's linear, so he's kind of faster. He's not as bulky, so it's a weird mix right there for RJ in that situation. I think he's adapting right there. And those situations, those late plays, I mean, when you see the third quarter or the beginning of he exits the third quarter earlier, like he does in the first quarter, to get that run with the second unit. Mm-hmm. So it's like when the second unit, because he's finishing every game. Like he's playing less minutes in the fourth for Immanuel Quickley to have a few minutes of run, but RJ ends up returning in the fourth quarter. Maybe it's trying to do defensive purposes, but for example, again the game against Cleveland, two defensive stops we had, two defensive plays on Donovan Mitchell by RJ Barrett. So it's I was discussing after the last game, Quickley, Grimes, and RJ Barrett are deserving of those minutes, and RJ's been playing offensively better. Defensively, he loses players sometimes. He's not around screens. He can't move around the screen, so he can't. He's just too big to dodge it. Quickly's been playing really good defensively. Still jacks up that crazy three every now
Heat
and
check,
then.
man. He's a walking heat check. That's what you need to understand.
It's but yeah, defensively he's a pain. Not always a good pain for the other teams, but he tries. He's active, and well, Grimes is Mr. Untouchable, and so he needs those minutes. He's getting those minutes because there's a lot of conversation right now if who should play, like if Grimes should be starting for the team even. I think he should. But because of Immanuel Quickley. So it's like you have Grimes in for defensive purposes, but he's making some mistakes, especially with those 4-point plays. Um, he's struggling a bit, so there's a lot of talk between RJ Quickley and Grimes. And I mean, if it's for the defensive purposes and RJ has been struggling on defense, it's understandable. Offensively, RJ is the better player. It's a different player than Immanuel Quickley, but he's the better player to attack, to penetrate, to have that offense, to lead that offense as well in spots. So it's too many players to play. That's it.
Let me throw a live grenade into this discussion. What if they're throwing Quickley more so in the fourth now to feature him to try and get other teams interested in kind of talking themselves into like, hey, this guy could be our lead guard moving forward. You know, that here's a guy who has range. He could get inside. He could defend. Okay size, you know. And you wonder if like a younger team looks at it as like, we have some draft capital, right? We got some, maybe like a couple matching salaries. Quickley and Obi's contracts are going to be up for renewal sooner than you think. And it makes you wonder, like, maybe they're looking at like, hey, you know, let's see, kind of put the line out there, see what people think, and let's see what comes of it. And because I think honestly, if they were really committed to him long term, he'd be in the starting lineup as opposed to Grimes. I think they've kind of decided that they like what Grimes' trajectory could be long term, with the understanding that we have RJ Barrett, we have Julius Randle, we have Jalen Brunson. We can't have another guy who's going to want to become an initiator, right? We need somebody like Quentin Grimes who's really good in the catch and shoot, a willing defender, got a little bit more size. And, you know, and obviously you have him for an extra year on the contract right now before any sort of renewal. So it makes me wonder if they're like, all right, we got to kind of feature Quickley because he's first guy off the bench, right? He's getting decent amount of minutes, more minutes than anybody else off the bench. And I really do wonder if they're kind of thinking like, all right, let's see if we can maybe drum up the value, have somebody talk themselves into acquiring this guy as their kind of point guard or off guard of the future. And I think that's what's happening. You know, I think that's kind of what they're doing. I think they love Quickley, but, you know, you can't fall in love with a player too much, as we've talked about many times.
I have a question.
Okay.
If Immanuel Quickley, because you can't deny his play has improved this year, and not from since the beginning of the season, but if Immanuel Quickley was playing like this to finish last season, so he was playing like this last season, do you think we still sign Jalen Brunson?
No. I think you think this is our point guard of the future. Let's keep our draft pick. Somebody from the Strickland posed a real interesting conundrum. Like, okay, let's say you don't sign Brunson in the offseason. You roll with IQ instead of playing Burks super late into the season like you did last year, right? And IQ's your guy of the future. You end up drafting Jalen Williams, who's been playing really well for Oklahoma City. And, you know, he's like your backup guy off the bench. And your three-man situation is Julius, RJ Quickley. You know, what's the long-term trajectory of that team? Are they basically where they're at right now? Maybe give or take a few wins because, you know, Brunson has kind of led to a couple of wins. You don't know if Quickley leads to those same wins. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought exercise because you're younger, you're more financially nimble. You're not strapped to a bigger contract with Brunson. And it's an interesting thought, but I think because they signed Brunson, they've kind of repeatedly said, hey, this guy is not going to be the point guard of the future. When they had a chance to do it, when they had a chance to bench Elfrid Payton, they didn't do it in his rookie year. Then the next year, they had a chance when Kemba didn't work out, but they went with Alec Burks for some reason. And then when they had a chance this offseason to commit to him, they went ahead and signed Jalen Brunson, which we all agreed that was the right move. Jalen has been amazing for us. But if you're IQ, you got to be looking like, all right, when am I ever going to get my chance if I really think that I could be a starting caliber player in the league? No one's saying he's a superstar or anything like that. Like, I'll give you an example. Minnesota right now, right? They're in win now mode. It feels like they're out on D'Angelo Russell. They're done with him, right? They just don't want to deal with this shit anymore, right? And he's a big contract, obviously. I mean, would a team like that look at IQ if they could get off of Russell and say, hey, why not, right? Why wouldn't I want this guy to run the show? The Lakers are now out of the running there because they just traded all their remaining assets for Hachimura, but that would have been something as well, So, I mean, Dallas, you talk about a guy who could fit into the Jalen Brunson role, run the offense when Luka can't run the offense and be able to hit a catch and shoot three. I mean, that's a fit. There's a lot of teams that could talk themselves into Immanuel Quickley, is my point.
Look at the Bucks. Instead of hey, give us Cam Reddish and we'll give you Grayson Allen. No, wait, give us Quickley, we'll give you Grayson Allen and the second pick or whatever. Take it. I mean, Quickley would be perfect right there.
Yeah.
The signing of Jalen Brunson, I think they created the situation. Well, Obi is covered because of Randall. And now Quickley, because he improved his play, is covered by Jalen Brunson. Because Jalen Brunson will never be the guy sitting on the bench. These clutch minutes, he will never be the guy sitting on the bench. He plays like he plays. He will be the guy out there getting the ball up the court. Mm-hmm. That's it. It feels like even if it's my concern. My thing is Jalen Brunson is an amazing player. I'm not shitting on Jalen Brunson because of Immanuel Quickley. Me of all people, shitting on players for Immanuel Quickley. Like, I don't think he's a superstar. I think he improved a lot.
Good guard. He's a good guard in this league. Yeah,
exactly. But he's a good guard in this league. Exactly. But even if you believe now that maybe he can be a star or he can be a very great point guard for this team. He can be that third guy with Julius and RJ. Can this be oops, we jumped the gun thing because we had Quickley all this time and we were playing point guard Burks, rest his soul. We were playing Kemba Walker. We were killing Derrick Rose out there, playing all those minutes. He couldn't play anymore. When we had this guy we can build up, like, did we do a Knicks? Like, we have this, but we want to win now. I mean, I'm not saying Quickley would be better or is better, man.
You really think about it. Kemba was a win now signing, right? So it tracks. I'm sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that I've got two things I'm going to disagree with you on. So
sorry.
Again, I think the Quickley thing comes down to, yeah, I mean, he's obviously a very good player, but he's coming down to the point where we're overhyping our own players again. There's absolutely zero chance.
Saying he's a starting caliber guard in this league is not overhyping.
Omar, he's got zero chance of getting a starting role on a team like Timberwolves or the Bucks or.
Okay, let's say that you trade into a tanking team like San Antonio.
Yeah, that's more likely. Okay. But I mean, he's the 25th pick. He's he's built up a nice solid role in the team. He's certainly improved this year, defensively especially. He's a solid rotation player. He's not I don't think he has star quality. I agree with Rafa and that some of the criticism.
No one's saying he's a superstar. I mean, we're not. No, I'm not saying that. I know he's not a superstar.
Yeah, but if
debate,
we're
I
looking
will.
at it from another team, I can't see, oh, right, we're going to give up a lot to get Immanuel Quickley. He's going to come in and, be our guy. Do you know? I just don't see it.
There's
I think he's in
there's
the
a guy you
perfect role
love.
he's in at the moment,
And I mean,
Tibbs loves
there's
him
a
as
guy
well.
you love. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Go. I was just
No,
going to say the other
there's
thing I
a
was going to disagree with you. Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead, go
Rafa.
ahead.
Just while I remember was the Brunson thing. That Brunson thing they would do again and again and again.
Oh
That
yeah, of course.
even if Quickley was already in the starting role, for whatever reason, they would still do that deal, even from an asset collection point of view. You're getting a guy, that's potentially all-star level player
Yeah,
for
they viewed him as that.
second.
Like they
That
view
was
him
always going
as
to happen.
acquiring a star, right? When they say we need a star, I think they view Jalen as a star. So yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
So okay, what I was gonna say is there's a guy a guy you love, Alex. You absolutely love, and you wanted the Knicks to sign him,
Oh no.
who was exactly what Immanuel Quickley is. Not a starter. Two teams didn't make him a starter. Now he's getting 30 million with the Miami Heat. Kyle Lowry was traded to a shit Houston Rockets team, got a few starts, was traded to Toronto Raptors in 2012, 2011, 2012. Was got a few stars because they were the Toronto Raptors in 2012. Became the greatest player in that franchise. The historic Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, historically the best player to ever play in Toronto. Kawhi Leonard. Okay, but well, a team's trash is another team's gold. You have time, build it. You can give Emmanuel Quickley the time, and you can build him. You can make him even better. So if
Yeah,
you
but
love Kyle Lowry now, probably maybe you can love Quickley as a starter. I mean, Kyle Lowry is not a superstar, but he's a very good player, a serviceable player who can help you. And maybe Kawhi Leonard doesn't get a title in Toronto if Kyle Lowry wasn't there knocking those shots. So it's
that's just underlining my point, though, Rafa. The Raptors took Lowry on when the Raptors were an absolute joke. Do you know? I mean, it's not as if he came in, as the final piece of the jigsaw and took them to the title sort of thing. He had a long time.
Are we saying that the Minnesota Timberwolves are not a joke?
That's fair.
They have
That's
massively underachieved this year. Like
Yeah.
they were talking about title expectations, top 4 in the West. They're like in play-in territory, if I'm not mistaken.
I know.
So
they're in sixth. They're in the sixth seed right
that's
now.
right there. That's on the cusp. And so I mean, like I said, maybe I'm higher on Quickley than you guys are. Like, I think the Clippers would want him over Reggie Jackson. Like, that's a playoff team, potentially. So I don't know. I just think that it's not outrageous to suggest that they might be kind of showcasing him a little bit to drum up, see what kind of interest is there, whether it could be a first round pick that you get back from. We're not saying you're getting a superstar haul. You're getting a nice looking pick, and maybe a player, is what you're looking at more than likely. But
they definitely do that. I think that's probably, there was a bit of that with Cam as well. With the run that they gave Cam, they were just trying to get something out of him.
And now they're trying to avoid injury, basically. Yeah, right. Guys, we talk about a lot of things on this show. It's one thing I don't think we've talked about in a long time, if we've ever talked about it. It is one Jim Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. I think we don't talk about him because, quite frankly, he's been out of kind of the spotlight for quite a bit now. But this week, Jimmy Dolan decided to, do a few interviews. He did some local TV and radio stuff in New York City. And, he said a few interesting things. So we kind of want to go through a few of these things and just talk about them. The biggest thing that he was talking about was the use of facial recognition technology inside Madison Square Garden. And he's basically said that this is really controversial because they're like, oh, well, now you're screening people so you can, if somebody says one bad thing about the team on Twitter, maybe you ban them from the Garden type thing. So he said, basically, if you're a confrontational fan, you're causing problems. That's what the facial recognition tech is used for. So let's throw it to you guys. Like, do you think this is one? Is this like bad implementation? Are we just making it too big of a deal because it's Dolan? What's your guys' take on this?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a bit of that. We haven't had a mock Dolan story for a while, so it's a little bit right. Oh, he's suddenly come out the shadows again. So there's a little bit of that. Yeah, I was just thinking the facial recognition thing. I think Patrick Ewing is going to be looking into that, so somebody might actually recognize him as he's coming
There
out of
it
the
is.
garden now. So he doesn't have to
Patrick
just
Ewing or Oakley?
Well, you don't remember that, Rafa, where he was coaching as Georgetown in the Big East tournament, and he was walking through the entrance, and they were asking for a pass, and he's like, "You don't know who
Oh
I am."
yeah, no, yeah. Forget it, yeah.
there's my
I
jersey
blocked
up
it
there.
from my mind. Yeah.
Poor
the
Patrick.
but yeah, no, I didn't watch all of it. It's not something I particularly got excited about when I saw a James Dolan interview, but some of the stuff he was coming out with was quite funny. That quote about the about what was it? I'm gonna butcher this if I don't just read it out exactly. Um, my deal with Leon and with head coach Tom Thibodeau is that I get to speak. Their deal is that they don't have to listen to me. I thought it was almost humorous from him, but I
Yeah, it
mean, of
speaks to
course, he's
the meddling accusations that people have on him.
yeah.
Which, to be fair, since he brought on these guys, he hasn't really done any of that.
If you're the owner of a franchise that's worth what the Knicks are worth, of course you're going to want to speak up every now and again. So, but yeah, it's nice to hear that at the end of the day his voice can be ignored if need be. So he seems to have total trust in
He's
the front
I'll say
office.
this about Dolan. He's matured in the sense that like early years Dolan, he was kind of like he wanted to put his fingerprints on stuff. Now he's
Yeah,
kind of like, look, I'm not a basketball guy. Let me bring in basketball guys to do basketball things. I'm going to focus on the profitability of Madison Square Garden, and that's what he's been focusing on.
So I agree with it. I mean, the facial recognition thing and the band fans or whatever. We're all on TV when you're going to a game. So we are all on CCTV footage. If we are throwing, and we know this, if you are throwing stuff to the arena, they will stop, look at the camera, point you out, and throw you out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing new. You can get banned. People will know you. They will get so facial recognition if it's I don't know what's people are going into with mustaches and different colors of eyes to get into the game because they wanted to, I missed LeBron James last game last year. I'm gonna hit this year. Is it something people do? Probably. I mean, it's like, but it's if you're going to a game, you have all these announcements to behave, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other thing, and security guards are on you. So it's not a problem. There's a lot of people out there in sports who do some nasty stuff. So it's yeah that. But funny story, I remember at the stadium where I work at, the Benfica Stadium, the former president was walking through the door, the main door of the stadium, and the security guard that was working there, it was her first day or second day on the job, and they tell him nobody enters without a card, without a card saying you're a member of the team. But the guy is the president. He does whatever he wants there. So he didn't have his card. So the security guard was like, no, you won't get in. But I'm the president. No card, no in. Well, it was her first and last day on the job. But so people are working, they don't recognize the people, they're just doing their job. So it's just
They
a funny thing
forget
I
how
remember.
big of a chain it is from like the
That's
on
all.
the ground workers all the way up to the top. There's a lot of people in between those two levels.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll
I thought that
say
story was going to end with Rafa saying, don't you know who I am?" As you get rejected back from.
No, the former president was like the guy who you would be drinking some wine out of the bottle with. So he was a
there you go.
total,
All right.
yeah, there you go. But Dolan, man, that quote Alex just said, it's like he's the president. He's the owner of the team. Yeah, he won't be selling the team because he
Why
earns a
would
lot
he?
of money. Why
Why the
would he
fuck would he
sell
sell the team?
something? Well, yeah. Um. So he's the boss. He can say stuff, but they know, okay, I'll be mad if we lose. I will say stuff. Try this, try that, try the other thing, but you're paid to do a job, so do it. Screw what I say. Man. Yeah, I mean, they're doing their job. If he's meddling or if he's tried to meddle, the guy's just well, if you're going to do it yourself, we don't need to be here. Dolan running the show, that would be a thing. But so yeah, I mean, let Dolan be Dolan. Let Dolan earn his millions while we are here
Not
surviving.
spending millions. Here's here's the thing about this Dolan stuff is the facial recognition thing. You know, like back in like the 70s, like it was a different vibe when you went to a NBA arena. You know, it's kind of just like people betting on the games and like the super diehards and all that stuff. And you hear that era kind of romanticized about, you know, where there's like fighting in the crowds and they're throwing shit on the court and they're doing all this stuff, right? Creating a hostile environment, so to speak. And the thing about it is like when you run the team, you don't want that. You know, you want it to be perceived as kind of family friendly, you know, so that you can bring your wife and kids to a game sort of situation. And you know, that's what Dylan's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to say, hey, look, we have this stuff. So if you are causing a problem in the upper deck at MSG, we're just going to go ahead and kick you out of the game because we use this facial recognition tech. And that you're hoping curbs people to want to do some stupid shit. And that's all I think it is. I know people are overreacting. It's like, oh, this is him showing how thin-skinned he is. This is, you know, classic Dolan. Always got to make himself the headline. You know, you got guys on ESPN saying that or whatever, and I just don't look
But
at it that way. You know, I just look at it as this is him trying to paint a picture like saying, hey, MSG is safe, MSG is fun, and you come down, enjoy Rangers or a Knicks game, and you'll have a good time. You don't have to worry about people causing problems, even if you are in the upper deck.
I bet you if you look around every team in the league, they're probably doing something similar, but it just
Yeah,
gets like everything else gets magnified a million
that's him,
times.
right? Yeah, just because it's
it's
Dolan.
Dolan. It's Dolan. It's Dolan. It's the Knicks. So it is what it is, man. It's everything he says and we do. It's a microscope right there.
So let's go from talking about Dolan to talking about Rafa's least favorite part of a basketball game, and that is officiating. So if you guys are unaware, you know, the NBA after every game sends out a last 2 minutes report where they review the calls that went down in the last 2 minutes and say if something should have been a call to foul, or maybe it was an incorrect call. A lot of the times the Knicks are a victim of this where, you know, a bad play happens and they say, oh, yeah, that should have been an out of bounds call or that should have been a foul, whatever the case may be. We actually had it go in our favor in the Cleveland game where, you know, there was determined that on Donovan Mitchell's final shot, there was a foul that was not called. So I guess I want to ask you guys, is the last 2 minute report outside of making fans angry or happy, whatever the case may be, uh, is there really any point to this thing?
No. I mean, fans of any sport will get angry no matter what. Do you know they'll find a way to vent their frustration and their anger in some other way. You know, if you didn't have the 2 minute report, they'd be angry, saying, "Why isn't there a 2 minute report to explain all these decisions?" So,
Right.
it's there. It's a talking point, something to spark debate and things. And you know, I mean, you know, I get frustrated just like Rafa does, but I know you're a little bit more calm about the whole situation, Omar. But you know, it is, you know, these guys are going to make mistakes, you know, and I don't. They should. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about the LeBron thing, but you know, a situation like that. I mean, it's the last few seconds of the game. They could have just said, "Look, I want another look at this." You know, it's such a huge play. Can we just take a couple of seconds to look at it? You know, the bringing in the challenges and things like that will, you know, just, you know, look at big plays, you know, and to end games. You know, that's where games are going to be won and lost and things like that. So, all sports are kind of embracing the kind of replay technology now. So, I just think they've just not got it quite right. The challenge system in general. And it's something they've got to look at. But the 2-minute report thing, I think it's fine as it is. At least it's the guys owning up, and these guys aren't going to make mistakes on purpose. They're not biased against players or teams or anything like that. That'd be insane to do that. These guys will be getting assessed by somebody. So they're gonna. I don't know what the repercussions are for something like that. Missing such a huge call. Maybe they'll get. Maybe not some highlight game or something like that for playoffs and things like that. They'll go down the pecking order a wee bit, forgetting the big games when it comes. So something like that. So I think it's good just from a debate perspective, and just getting a bit of clarification on things. But the annoying one was the RJ one, obviously, because the 2-minute report just seemed a lot of nonsense, to be honest. But yeah, we could talk all night about that decision. LeBron thinks he's the only one that gets these things that go against him, but he says he watches basketball every day. He obviously didn't watch the Knicks game with that foul. So
those reports are only to piss off fans more, because as Alex just said, if you're a Knicks fan, you were pissed at that missed call. With that report, you get even more pissed because there was contact, but the contact wasn't enough to alter the shot. Like, the guy is getting pulled down. Are you blind? Whatever. But the reports, to me, it's like they need to do them. You have enough technology now to not influence the game that heavily, because it's a win or lose. It's a couple. I mean, there's a lot of plays throughout the game they can have missed calls. Okay, but those final minutes, they have the option of going to the video assist and getting that call right. Because imagine if that's Game 7 of the NBA playoffs, the final. That's costing a title to a team. Mm. So that's big calls. Like, the thing I would like to see in the NBA, that would be something different, is that there's a pecking order maybe for the referees in the NBA. But what if it was more of a national thing? Like, you have, like here in Portugal or in Europe, you have it in football, you have the referees association of that country. And how well you perform, you get graded, and better grades, you get going up the ranks, and you're able to qualify to better games and better leagues. So only the best even if you're in the first, you're a referee on the top tier, only if you're above a certain level of evaluation will you be able to go into Europe.
So, like, if you're a bad
not
ref,
good enough for
you get
Europe,
demoted to the G League or regional games only type thing.
Yeah, that's basically it. Because that way you'll have the best referees available to be in the better leagues. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have a referee who has a terrible record this year, he's been terrible, missing a lot of calls, like, maybe that referee is, it's past. He's not doing his job well. Let's find another. Let's get demoted. I mean, that way, because right now referees are fired from the NBA. The NBA's referees. It's like, that way the guys keep their jobs, but it's obviously they get less money because they're not in the NBA. So you need to work and try to be as best as you can. But that LeBron James play, I mean, that was a missed call. It wasn't. It was a missed call like so many others we've seen these couple of weeks that cost the Knicks games. But it's hilarious to me, the most hilarious thing I ever seen in the NBA. Like, Patrick Beverley going into with the camera to the referee, showing how it was a foul and getting a tag for that. Like, believe how frustrating it is. I mean, we all played sports like amateur sports, and you can know how frustrating it is when, oh, it's not a foul. What are you talking about? My arm fell off. Like, it's like, obviously the refs make mistakes. Obviously, if the players do, obviously the refs make mistakes. The players cost teams games. Yes, they do, but when the refs are doing it because they should be down the middle. But again, you have right now you have the technology to, if you don't agree on that play, there are 3 or 4 referees. If they don't agree with that play, go watch it. I think there was contact. I don't think it was. So let's watch it. Let's see who's right. They have the power right now. Just do it. And referee that think about getting dropped and getting up, well, it's a way to get them accountable for their mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
mistakes happen, but if you're trying to be the best referee you can be, I'm not saying they're not trying to be that, but maybe that helps them well, not getting 25 years of the same job, same league, getting to know the players. And so yeah.
The 2-minute report, first of all, to me is pretty useless. And the reason is, like I said, it just stokes up anger and gets people mad. But there's no consequences. Like if a ref like blows that LeBron call and they say, "Oh, 2-minute report, this should have been called a foul," and what happens to that ref? They're still gonna, are they like, is there some sort of penalty? Like, all right, well, you're not doing a Lakers Celtics game. How about we get you over on Rockets Spurs now? Like, and maybe that's like you said, to be demoted into worse games and maybe not a nationally televised game type thing. And the thing I have is, like, you have a lot of people. So you mentioned, Alex, how I'm not really one to complain about refs and calls as much as other fans. And the reason for that is I understand the sports is entertainment. We know that, right? Like, Rafa, you were tweeting about the Royal Rumble yesterday, right? Sports entertainment,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, right? And I'm not saying it's fixed like WWE, but I'm saying there's an entertainment value and there's a drama element, and the referees are a character in the drama, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so you are going over a bad call. That's good for business because you're engaging, you're talking about it on Twitter, you're doing all this stuff, and it's kind of like the whole controversy sells thing. And I see a lot of people who say, all right, we should have robot referees, right? Where if
What?
they're scanning the court, or they're saying, I think every single foul call or every single non-call should be reviewed. Like, they say this in American football a lot. Like, do
Uh,
you want games to last for 7 hours? I mean, is that what you want? And
that's the
there
thing.
there
Yeah.
has to be a fine line. Like, maybe it becomes a situation where in under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, different rules apply, right? American football does that, right? Where reviews can be called up from the booth as opposed to a coach's challenge. And it's a thing where there are problems with refereeing, and we've talked about before how the league is still kind of training this next generation of refs, and there's going to be growing pains with them, just like there's growing pains with Deuce McBride, right? It's like that's just kind of how it
It is.
goes. And I don't know. I just think that a lot of times people get bent out of shape. It's easy to blame a team loss on the refs. It's easy to kind of, they're low hanging fruit. We know that. And to me, it's just part of it. And but I do think this 2-minute report is kind of dumb. Other than being a part of the machine to get people talking about games more, right? You were watching the Lakers Celtics, but that blown call you're talking about into the next day now because it was a controversial no call. And we see this with VAR in football. We see this with coaches' challenges and non-challenges in American football. You see it, in all sorts of sports that implement some sort of close judgment call type situations. Because here's the thing: if every single foul call that was letter of the law foul call was called, the games will become unwatchable. There is something to be said about high leverage moments, and when they say that, oh, they're going to let them play the last few minutes here, the last couple possessions. That's a real thing because you don't want, like, just continuous foul calls over a slight graze of the arm because that's technically a foul, right? So I think there has to be a balance here. You know what I mean? There has to be refereeing needs to be more consistent and it needs to be more accurate, of course. But if you went ahead and tried to strive for 100% accuracy, the games become unwatchable. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
It's impossible as well. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. You can't do it.
Yeah. But the way I don't know if you guys saw that, because there's a Twitter page with the NBA referees Twitter page where they try to answer to fans and
RIP that admin.
No, did you see their response to the LeBron James missed call?
No, what did they say?
Oh, that's the type. I mean, I don't have the tweet up, but it's like something like these types of calls that influence games like this. It's what costs referees nights of sleep. We don't sleep after these nights because it haunts us. Get them right.
I believe that.
Dude, go watch the tape. The last play of the game. Dude, go watch the tape. Like, make sure you made the right call. Go watch it. It's not. I mean, you spend like what 10 seconds looking at the monitor, like that's a foul. Or even if you want to do something to not interrupt the game for the referees not to stop, you have guys like some sort of VAR, like they're watching the monitor and saying, "Hey, that might have been a foul. Maybe we should look at this," because it can change the game. I mean, again, if it's a game 7 of the NBA Finals, that would be the most egregious non-call ever. Like, imagine the
also
Lakers, LeBron James. I mean,
can we talk about the fact that like the players are kind of part of this problem too? Because you got players dictating their play style. Looking at you, James Harden, Luka does this, where they dictate.
Did it.
Part of their offensive game is getting foul calls, and like you look at some of like the shot angles that some of these guys take to draw contact, like that's not basketball in a lot of senses, you know what I mean? And so I think it's a two-way street with the problems here. Like you're forcing the ref's hand to make calls in certain situations, and it's all around just a bad deal.
There's a huge debate about it because LeBron's argument was always, well, it's not my fault I'm this size and this powerful and this fast. And
Julius Randle defense.
Yeah, exactly. And, people are fouling me, 5-6 times on a play, and it doesn't affect me in the same way it might affect, Ja Morant or something like that, who just goes flying as soon as you touch him. And, it's like what constitutes a foul. And I thought that's why it was interesting, the wording of that RJ Barrett one, that about how it didn't affect the shot, and I think that's what, but even though we don't believe that, I'm just saying if that is an actual wording in an actual rule, maybe that's come from something like LeBron over the years, where you hitting LeBron in the arm just doesn't make the same effect as it does to somebody else, and so
the inconsistency comes like a guy who's shooting a corner three, the ball has left his hand, you haven't affected his shot, but you graze his fingertips, instant foul call, right? So that's the inconsistency. That's the difficult thing.
Exactly.
It's tough, because these guys are such high level athletes, and it's just like, and with all the flopping and theatrics that goes on, it becomes super difficult. Like I would never want to be a ref. One, everybody hates you.
Oh,
two, it's a very hard job.
Yeah.
That RJ report, like, how can that be their defense if not that calling? RJ goes up for a two-handed slam, ends up ducking with only his left because his other arm is pulled down. How did that not affect the shot he wanted to
Obviously, because the shot went in, it doesn't matter. That's their logic, right?
Come on, the guy goes for a two-handed slam, but it's that does nothing. What it gives the win back to the team? No. So the reports are meaningless. It's like saying, "Hey, we admit our mistakes. Great. What are you doing about it? Trying to be better." That's the guy.
Just getting better every day, man. Just getting better every day.
Personal growth, man. Personal growth. Grind.
Yeah, personal growth. It's fine.
We were talking about meaningful wins and meaningful losses. Meaningful mistakes right here.
There it is.
Oh, I got this call right. Look at me. It's
pat on the back and we get that gold star, Let's jump into some game picks real quick, guys. So 3 games on the docket this week. Tuesday, another national TV game. I think it's a ESPN game against the Lakers. I just talk about LeBron. Thursday against Miami, and Saturday against the Clippers. I am happy to report that I do not think that LeBron will break Kareem's record against us. So that's very exciting for us. So good stuff.
200 or something.
Yeah. What you got, Alex? What are you thinking?
Well, that Lakers game you'd mentioned about LeBron, about how we were still talking about it the day after. It's also just wanted to mention about the hilarious toddler tantrum that he had on the court, which was part of the reason why I think we're talking about it days after. So yeah, possibly he's going to have a reaction and score 250 points just to break the record as well. So he is playing really, really well right now. So I don't want to really call that one, but I'd say I'm going to go 1-2 over the week. I think we might drop the Lakers and the Heat game. I think we've got a half decent chance against Clippers. As always, they're such a strange team that I think you've always got a chance against them. So yeah, I'll go 1-2 over the week.
I will go 2-1. I think we're beating the Lakers and the Heat. I don't know. Something tells me that we are just well built to deal with the Miami Heat. Even if they're physical, we are physical as well. But we don't have Tyler Hero to play defense for us, so that's a plus to me. That's a thing that Jalen Brunson can.
We got Deuce McBride playing offense, so that's kind of a wash.
Oh yeah, that absolutely cancels it out. That black hole on defense, on offense. Like Frank Ntilikina might be a better offensive player than Deuce McBride. It's my thing, but yeah, 2-1 probably.
Right.
I just want to know. I just want to know who gave Deuce the green light to try and dunk on Nick Claxton yesterday, and he just got obliterated at the rim. I just want to know who okayed that. Was that Johnny Bryant, or who said that was okay? I just want to know.
Johnny Bryant never gets the blame for anything, does he?
Yeah. So
I would love to see Tibbs' reaction to that play, like just be in his mind be in his mind, but might be scary. But know what he was thinking about that play right now.
Yeah.
That face he made when Jalen Brunson did that silly turnover. He's like, what the fuck, man? Come on. Dude, you're costing me my job here.
It's like I'm about to get fired before the deadline. What are you doing to me? So I'm gonna agree with Rafa. I'm gonna say 2-1. I'm gonna say we drop the game against the Heat, though. I don't know. Clippers, like you mentioned, have been really weird. I think we could. Depends on if Kawhi and Paul George are even playing. Like, I think they're both out today for load management or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna say 2-1. I feel like we could beat the Lakers even if LeBron has another masterful game. That seems to be their MO. That LeBron drops 40, but they still lose type thing. I'm gonna go with 2-1. But yeah, that is gonna wrap up another episode of the pod. If you would like to catch up with us on Twitter, you can follow us at WW Knicks Podcast. You could catch us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Next week, we are going to have a nice trade deadline special, so looking forward to that. Other than that, go Knicks, and we will see you guys next week.